Welcome to Project Scan, where we mentor on parenting and expose child abuse. Our goal is to create a safe environment for children by empowering parents. We help you navigate modern parenting and raise awareness of all forms of child abuse. This episode speaks to curbing school bullying. It was a typical Monday morning at St. Mary's School. The students were walking to their classrooms, chatting with their friends, and looking forward to another week of learning. But for one student, John, the day was already off to a bad start. John was a quiet, reserved boy who kept to himself most of the time. He was in his first year of high school, and he didn't know many people. As he walked to his classroom, he saw a group of seniors walking towards him. They were laughing and joking, and John thought they looked like nice guys. But as they got closer, John realized that they weren't so friendly after all. The seniors started pushing him around, calling him names, and making fun of his clothes. John tried to ignore them and keep walking, but they followed him into the classroom. The class was already in session, and John's classmates looked up in surprise as the seniors walked in. The teacher, Mr. Johnson, didn't seem to notice anything was wrong, and he continued with his lesson. But the seniors weren't done with John yet. They started throwing things at him, pulling his hair, and tripping him as he walked to his seat. John felt humiliated and scared, but he didn't know what to do. He didn't want to make a scene and draw more attention to himself. As the class went on, the bullying continued. The seniors whispered insults in John's ear, and the other students laughed along. John felt like he was trapped in a nightmare that he couldn't wake up from. Finally, the bell rang, and the class was over. John grabbed his bag and tried to leave quickly, but one of the seniors blocked his way. "Where do you think you're going, loser?" he sneered. John's heart raced as he tried to think of a way out of the situation. But before he could say anything, a voice spoke up from behind him. "Leave him alone." It was Mr. Johnson, the teacher. He had noticed the bullying all along, but he hadn't known what to do about it. Now, he was taking a stand. The seniors hesitated for a moment, but then they started to laugh. "What are you going to do about it, old man?" one of them taunted. But Mr. Johnson didn't back down. He told the seniors to leave John alone and to get out of the classroom. The seniors grudgingly complied, but not before giving John one last shove. John felt a mix of relief and gratitude as the door closed behind them. He turned to Mr. Johnson, who was looking at him with concern. "Are you okay?" he asked. John nodded, but he still felt shaken up. He couldn't believe that he had been bullied in front of his entire class. He felt like he would never be able to face them again. But as the days went on, something unexpected happened. The other students started to reach out to John, offering him their friendship and support. They apologized for not standing up for him earlier, and they promised to be there for him in the future. John realized that he wasn't alone after all. He had people who cared about him and wanted to help him. And with Mr. Johnson's support, he knew that he could face whatever challenges came his way. The bullying had left its mark on John, but he refused to let it define him. He was determined to be strong, to stand up for himself, and to help others who might be going through the same thing. As he walked out of the school on Friday afternoon, he felt a sense of hope and possibility. He knew that the road ahead wouldn't be easy, but he was ready for whatever came his way. John also knew that he couldn't do it alone. He needed the support of his friends, his family, and his teachers. He needed to feel like he belonged, like he had a place in the world. Over the next few weeks, John started to open up to his classmates and teachers. He shared his experiences of being bullied, and he listened to their stories too. He realized that bullying wasn't just happening to him, it was a problem that affected many people. With Mr. Johnson's help, John started a campaign to raise awareness about bullying in the school. They put up posters, organized assemblies, and held workshops to teach students about empathy, respect, and kindness. They also set up a peer mentoring program, where older students could mentor younger ones and provide support and guidance. John's experience with bullying was a traumatic one. He had always been a shy and reserved kid, and he never felt like he quite fit in with his peers. But things took a turn for the worse when he entered high school. It started with small things, name-calling, teasing, and exclusion. But it quickly escalated into something much more sinister. John was regularly taunted, threatened, and even physically assaulted by a group of older students. He was afraid to go to school, and he felt like he had nowhere to turn. The worst part was that the teachers and staff seemed indifferent to what was happening. They turned a blind eye to the bullying, and John felt like he had no one to protect him. He began to withdraw from his studies, his friendships, and his hobbies. He felt like he was trapped in a nightmare, and there was no way out. But one day, everything changed. John's MUT teacher, Mr. Johnson, noticed that something was wrong. He could see the fear and sadness in John's eyes, and he knew that he had to do something to help. Mr. Johnson took John aside after class and asked him what was going on. At first, John was hesitant to open up, but he could tell that Mr. Johnson genuinely cared about him. So he told him everything about the bullying, the fear, and the hopelessness. To his surprise, Mr. Johnson didn't dismiss his concerns or tell him to toughen up. Instead, he listened, he empathized, and he offered to help in any way he could. He told John that he wasn't alone, that he deserved to be treated with respect and dignity, and that he had a right to feel safe in school. He realized that there were people who cared about him, who saw him for who he was, and who wanted to help him. He felt a glimmer of hope, a spark of courage, and a sense of determination. But he also knew that the road ahead would be long and difficult. He had to confront his bullies, he had to stand up for himself, and he had to heal from the wounds that had been inflicted on him. It wouldn't be easy, but he knew that he had to try. John's experience with bullying was unfortunately not unique. Across the country, students of all ages and backgrounds are being bullied every day. Some are bullied by their peers, others by teachers or other adults in positions of power. But regardless of the specifics, the effects of bullying are devastating. Take, for example, Sarah. Sarah was a bright, talented student who loved to learn. But in middle school, she became the target of vicious bullying by a group of girls in her class. They spread rumors about her, excluded her from social events, and even vandalized her locker. Sarah felt like she had nowhere to turn. She didn't want to tell her parents or teachers because she was afraid of making things worse. So she suffered in silence, her self-esteem and confidence slowly eroding away. It wasn't until her English teacher, Miss Johnson, noticed that something was wrong that Sarah felt like she could speak up. Miss Johnson took the time to listen to Sarah's concerns, to validate her feelings, and to offer support and guidance. She helped Sarah to develop coping strategies, to build up her self-esteem, and to stand up for herself in a healthy way. For Sarah, having someone believe in her and advocate for her was life-changing. She went from feeling like a victim to feeling like a survivor. She found the strength to confront her bullies, to speak up for herself, and to pursue her passions. She was still healing, but she was on the path to recovery. And then there was David. David was a quiet, studious student who always did his best in class. But his MUT teacher, Mr. Smith, seemed to have it out for him. Mr. Smith would mock David in front of the class, belittle his achievements, and give him unfair grades. David felt like he was being singled out, and he didn't know what to do. It wasn't until David's parents got involved that the bullying stopped. They spoke to the principal, who took the issue seriously and investigated the situation. Mr. Smith was reprimanded, and David was given the support he needed to succeed in school. All of these stories have one thing in common: the power of intervention. When someone takes the time to listen, to believe, and to act, they can make all the difference in the life of a bullied child. Whether it's a teacher, a parent, a friend, or even a stranger, we all have a role to play in preventing and addressing bullying. We can work together to create a world where every child feels safe, respected, and valued. Despite his traumatic experience with bullying, John refused to be a victim. He decided to take action, to stand up for himself and for others who were suffering in silence. John started by speaking out about his own experience. He shared his story with friends, family, and teachers, and he was amazed by the outpouring of support he received. People were shocked and saddened by what had happened to him, but they were also inspired by his courage and his determination. With that support behind him, John decided to take things further. He began to research anti-bullying campaigns, to learn about different tactics and methods that had been successful in other communities. He reached out to organizations that were focused on ending bullying, and he became a vocal advocate for their cause. One of the most effective tactics that John found was education. By teaching people about the impacts of bullying, about the signs to look for, and about the ways to intervene, he was able to create a culture of awareness and empathy. He organized workshops and events at his school, inviting experts and advocates to speak to students, parents, and teachers. Another tactic that John found helpful was peer support. He worked with his classmates to create a network of students who were committed to ending bullying in their school. They stood up for each other, they reported incidents of bullying, and they helped each other to find the support and resources they needed to heal. And perhaps most importantly, John never gave up. He faced setbacks and challenges along the way, but he remained steadfast in his commitment to making a difference. And over time, his efforts paid off. David and Sarah were two of the many students who were helped by John's advocacy. David found support in the peer network that John had created, and he learned how to stand up for himself in a healthy way. Sarah was inspired by John's courage and determination, and she found the strength to speak out about her own experience with bullying. Slowly but surely, things started to change. The school became a safer, more inclusive place. Students were more aware of the impact of their words and actions, and they started to treat each other with more kindness and compassion. For John, the transformation was incredible. He went from being a victim of bullying to being a leader in the fight against it. He found purpose and meaning in his experiences, and he was able to turn his pain into something positive. Looking back, John realized that the bullying had been a turning point in his life. It had forced him to confront his fears and insecurities, and it had shown him what he was capable of. It had also taught him the importance of standing up for what was right, even in the face of adversity. As he graduated from high school and moved on to the next chapter of his life, John felt a sense of pride and accomplishment. He knew that he had made a difference, and he hoped that his story would inspire others to do the same. Bullying was a problem that affected many people, but it was also a problem that could be solved. With courage, compassion, and commitment, John had shown that anything was possible, and for that, he would always be grateful. Thanks to John's leadership, the school community was transformed. Bullying was no longer tolerated, and students felt safe and supported. John had become a hero, a crusader for the cause of anti-bullying, and he had helped to change the lives of countless children. Thank you for joining us on this journey to create a safer world for our children. Project SCAN provides the support and resources you need to become the best parent you can be and prevent child abuse in our communities. Together, we can make a difference in the lives of our children. Don't forget to share, comment, and subscribe to our channel. See you in the next video.